Hey guys, welcome to the video. In this video, I want to discuss a very interesting example of, let's say, I first of all, I want to make a claim and then I want to give you a least expected but very interesting. I hope it would be very interesting and a valid example of why, to justify my claim essentially. And the claim is that, which is a very obvious claim. I'm pretty sure most of you are gonna agree with that, and I'm also pretty sure that most of you have heard of this at one point of time or another. But still, I'm gonna kind of bring this up once more in front of you. And although the claim is nothing new, but I'm pretty sure that the example would be pretty interesting. Okay, so the claim is that, and let's not say it's a claim. It's more of a, like, I'll be sharing my views on a very important issue. Let's put it that way. That sounds better than, if I keep saying that this is a claim. Okay, claim doesn't maybe doesn't is not the best word. And that is that. So first of all, what is research? And the answer is, it's very important to understand that the definition of research has changed over the years. So in Newton's days, or let's say in Darwin's days, there was no formal institutions, formal bureaucracy, structure, paperwork, and like for ethics. They didn't have to bother so much about research ethics. But today, if you are working in a research lab, you have to take care of a lot of protocols, a lot of this, a lot of that, and it's very much like structured, and which is good in some sense, bad in some other ways, but it's inevitable. I mean, more than focusing on whether it's good or bad, I think it's more important to realize that it's inevitable, because the complexity of the problems that today's researchers are trying to tackle and the implications they may have for humankind, it's inevitable. This is the only way. Sometimes I feel. Okay, but now my question would be, the question that I would like to bring up would be, so yeah, when I ask you what is research, many people will be like, okay, research is this quest of finding some new truths or exploring the universe, discovering new knowledge. Those are just some very definitions of research which does not capture the realistic part. Like, yeah, that is something that even a high school student knows, that that's what research is, or I should say, that is what research is supposed to be. But most people, when I ask you what is research, the answer I'm looking for, the answer people want is, what really is research? How does it feel like to be a researcher, and what really is research? What are the pros and cons? Is it really as good as it sounds? And what are the long term, like, what's something about research that is very real, that real researchers face and know, but that is usually skipped or not talked about? That is my question. And I will not answer that question in this particular video, maybe sometime later, but I would like to start whatever I'm gonna address in this video by saying that the definition of research is not a constant. It's not a absolute. There is no absolute universal definition. It changes. In Newton's days, research was just trying to find universal patterns in the world around you, and for Newton, it was transforming them to equations. It varies, like depending on what kind of system you're studying and who are you, because research is something which I personally believe is also a very personal quest at one point. Maybe less so in today's world, because in today's world we already have a huge body of knowledge. So if you want to do some real research in today's world, you have to spend a lot of time, first of all, studying what has already been done in that field, what we call literature review or the background study. And then, but that is important, I totally agree, but that might also have the effect, and in many cases, it does have the effect of biasing your thoughts, because you want to explore a problem, and first of all, you are spending maybe 1 year reading about the past work, how the problem has been tackled by so many researchers before you. So that's good, because without knowing that, you cannot really make some like real significant, or let's say quantitative progress. But you can have some qualitative ideas in most cases. Yeah, maybe you can have some qualitative ideas if you have a good background understanding of your subject, even though you may not have studied each and every tiny detail of that particular problem, like a background study. But, well, the system rewards mediocrity. It may sound very, like, I know it doesn't sound good, but the system rewards mediocrity, and it kind of ridicules, or even if it may not always ridicule openly, but this system is not very conducive for novel, bold, or original ideas that kind of, they're very original, they have a lot of potential, but if you are just tell people an original idea without doing, then people are like, okay, that's interesting, but have you really done the background study? Have you really done some background study? Have you taken a look at prior work in this area? Have you read a paper by blah blah blah, which came out in year blah blah blah? These are the kind of questions, which is good, but that's not all. But that is not always the right approach for many problems, because if you just first dive deep into the literature and just read it for, and then you decide to do your own research, then in many cases what ends up happening is that you just change some little stuff in what has already been done, and your work, your original research, quote unquote original research, is nothing but a new combination of past works. Like maybe 10 people worked in 10 different ways on a problem, and you are working on the same problem. So what you do, you, in very very like, I'm just coarse graining the description, it's not as simple as that, but still overall what you do is you do a very thorough literature review of those 10 papers, and then you mix them, and then you build something new, and then that is actually your original work, no doubt about it. And if it's logical, if you can justify your claims showing simulations or real world data, that's good. That is commendable, but it's not nothing original. You cannot call it an 11th work, an 11th independent work, because it's just a linear combination. So if you know linear algebra, it's like yeah, like let's say there three people have original independent works on that topic, x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. You are just a vector on that three-dimensional space. So you are just a combination of x and y and z, the three basis vectors. You are not a fourth fundamental separate dimension. That is what I mean to say. In most cases, that is what happens. And well, why it happens, I don't want to go deep into that. But in my personal experience, although my experience is just, I'm just a master student, so I'm not an experienced researcher. It's not like I am like this white-haired crazy professor with a lot of experience, or nothing like that. But still, from whatever little experience I have, I think reading a lot, it's important. Background review is very important, especially if you're tackling some conventional problem, which is what most PhD students are doing anyway, because I told you the system rewards mediocrity. But otherwise, it's also sometimes important to be bold in your ideas. Important in the sense, I don't know whether the system is going to reward you or not if you follow that trajectory. I have followed the trajectory, and I have got, if I'm honest, I've got mixed response. I have got some very positive response from some people, but overall, the system is not built for such ideas. So I would say I've got mixed response. It's not entirely negative, but okay, maybe because I'm just a master's student who just finished his undergraduate, maybe I have a little space to explore. But if you are a PhD student already specializing in a topic, and already part of a lab and all those stuff, then maybe you won't have the independence or freedom that I have right now as a master student. I mean to say, I won't have this freedom maybe after 2 years, when I will hopefully be a PhD student. Now the thing is that, yeah, so where was I keep losing track of things these days. Yeah, so the definition of research has changed and is changing. It's research is not like a fixed. It's constantly evolving. What do we mean by research? To someone like Newton, and especially in his time, back in his time when we didn't have so much formality like institutions and stuff, he had a lot of freedom. Not only because there was no institutional pressure, but also because nothing was discovered then. So I'm not trying to downplay Newton's achievements, Newton's genius. No doubt, he is the pioneer. But it is also true that in Newton's time, if you told him to do a background like literature review, there effectively there was no literature before him, like at least not very vast, very developed literature, just maybe one or two random, like one or two small works, I mean important works, no doubt. Like Newton also somewhat built on Galileo's works, maybe other Copernicus and stuff, but nobody there was no formal literature before Newton in physics, right? So Newton was kind of building from the scratch, which means the good part about it is that you have a lot of independence, and not only that, you can build your way. The only constraints are logical constraints, scientific constraints. If your equations predict something you don't observe, then that it's wrong. But there is nobody to, I mean, you don't have a PhD supervisor to please, you don't have a degree to get, your life doesn't depend on it, you don't have to worry about your job. I mean, at least not in that sense. And most importantly, you have a lot of freedom because almost nothing is discovered. So if you just if you're bold enough and try out a few few paths, you're definitely going to discover something. Now it's Newton's genius that he was able to revolutionize science, and in a way revolutionize humanity forever, and discover so many things. If some other people were in Newton's place, maybe they would have made some discoveries, but maybe not as revolutionary and as broad as Newton's. So that is why Newton is Newton. But I mean, you can understand. To someone like Darwin, just for an example, Darwin is one who not only changed science, but effectively, I think his contributions are as important, if not more, than Newton's contributions. And like I said, Newton, Darwin, they didn't change science; they changed humanity, the way we look at the universe. And Darwin's, but the approach they followed, hell and heaven difference. Newton was like this logical, he was abstract thinking, mathematical guy, and he was very practical. Practical in the way he knew the mathematics, he developed the mathematics. In fact, he always thought in terms of equations, and not only that, he actually worked on he's on telescopes, Newtonian telescopes and stuff. He was a very like a polymath, very broad interests and broad experience and expertise. Darwin, on the other hand, he didn't care about equations, and he didn't have that traditional like equation heavy research trajectory. He just observed nature, these birds in the island. You know the story. I hope you do. If not, you can go read it, because I myself have forgotten all the details, but it's very inspiring. And you know, Darwin is someone who just observed nature, observed this species of bird, and just based on pure observation and reasoning, no equations and nothing. He was able to he formed this conclusion that what is actually happening is just natural selection, and this is why maybe humans have evolved the way humans have evolved from, like, we all have a common ancestor. And this, although natural selection and evolution, which it's one of the biggest misconceptions, this survival of the fittest, it's not about that. But this idea, I mean, back then, just by observing, this is huge. And this was met with a huge backlash, obviously, because then from the orthodox, like the Christian community and the religious people, because this disproved creationism and the need for God, because previously people used to cite the evidence that humans exist with such a complex body, that this is not possible by itself, some God must have created us. Darwin's theory actually just turned that argument on its head, and that's beautiful. But the point I want to emphasize is that Newton and Darwin followed totally different paths, but both of them contributed to science in different ways, in different areas. But both have given us fundamental insights, beautiful, genius insights. But they followed different ways, and they had the freedom to do so, because not much was discovered back then, and there was no institutional pressure and stuff. Of course, both Newton and Darwin, from what I know, were like from pretty rich families. So of course, if they had to worry about bringing the bread on the table every day, then they probably wouldn't be doing science back then. They would be maybe working in a factory, or like doing some daily labor or something, like the if they were the poor class. Those things all existed in society back then also, I guess. But yeah, that's the thing. But today, if what is research, it's if I'm being very honest, it's combining prior work and pretending like you have done something new, while in reality it's not nothing original. Now, this would be my like a very short but very accurate definition of research. If you want to go deeper, maybe I could add a few more points from my experience and from whatever I have seen and known. Research is, let's say, research is about somehow proving that the hypothesis that your funder, I mean the your sponsor wants to believe is true, is true. So let me tell you in very short what I mean by that. Yeah. So positive results and negative results. Do you know what that means? So there can be, you can approach research in two ways. Either you are just this is the better way, in a way. I mean, in principle, this is the better way, although it's not always the most practical choice. And this is that you start by exploring. You don't have a question. I mean, you have a question in mind, but you don't have any expectation or any preconceived notion about the answer. So you are like, okay, so this is my question, and I will explore, but I am equally ready for both answers. The answer could be yes, this is true, or no, this is false. And to me, both are equally, like, I don't have a preference. So if I get an answer as no, then oh my god, I'm sad. I No, because that means I have already formed a bias that no, I want to get a yes. That is not the thing. So this kind of research is about exploration. I just have a question, and I'm just going to explore, unbiased and without any forming any bias. I'm just going to explore and see what my research gives me, what my results are. And to me, the answer is important. Whether the answer is yes or whether it's no doesn't make any difference to me. That is the number one. Number two is that you are testing some hypothesis. Now, this is where things get difficult and also interesting in a way. Let's say you have a hypothesis that blah blah blah, and your lab, and let's say it's a positive hypothesis, in the sense that if you can prove, I mean, if your research proves that this hypothesis is true, your company who is funding your research, or your lab, or your sponsor, or your government is gonna profit, or at least that is what they want to hear. So then, whether you admit it or not, even before you start working on your research, you have formed this bias in your mind that, okay, I just want my research to give them an answer yes. So that means you have already formed a bias, and that means if you get yes, that is a positive result. If your research says no, that's a negative result. So in many cases, what researchers do in such situations, I'm not kind of uh, of course, this is not what they always do, and I'm not trying to normalize or generalize this to all researchers. Neither I'm trying to, like, I'm not giving allegations to anyone, but in many cases what they do is that they tweak the parameters, they tweak their models, and they tweak their research in subtle ways so that the turns out to be yes. Because in this kind of research, especially involving statistical data analysis and stuff, and a lot of, like, you have some wiggle room where you can just play with your model, with your parameters a little, so that someone in the government or someone who is funding your research, they won't understand all the technicalities, and a little tweak can turn the answer from, I mean, you are in the gray area, so a little tweak can turn the answer from no to a yes. But inside that I have tweaked the model. Maybe otherwise, maybe I could have gotten the no, but that is not what I want to hear. Because if I tell them that my research revealed the answer to be no, they're not going to fund my work, and I am a researcher, I have to then I lose my job. So that is the at the end of the day, that is the most practical. I mean, whatever, we may say that no, we are different from the rest, we are researchers, we are scientists, we don't care about money, but we do. Every one of us, at the end of the day, that is what we're here for. Without money, it's nothing. I mean, no point denying that. But here's the irony: this actually introduces a bias in the available research literature. There are some claims that much of published research is actually false. Now that is a bit extreme, because not all research is just about data analysis and this kind of thing. Some especially some fundamental papers, they actually have truth in them, in the sense that within their limits they are true. They may be true. So yeah, most of published research is outright wrong. Probably that's a bit of a stretch. That's a very strong claim, but a significant percentage of research, especially of published research, especially involving data analysis, is actually misleading. That is, I think that is true. Because let's give a simple example, and this example, I read this in a book called, it's a very interesting book, you should check it out. I highly recommend it. It's called How Not to Be Wrong: The Hidden Maths of Everyday Life, a book by Jordan Ellenberg. It's a very, like, a popular science book. It's not technical. I read this many years back when I was in high school, and the book gives some very simple yet interesting, insightful examples to show how data can be used to fool us, and how to develop this kind of logical thinking. Nothing technical, but a very good book by Jordan Ellenberg. How Not to Be Wrong. Okay, I'll maybe, if I remember, at the time of uploading the video, I'll drop the link in the description if I remember. Else you can check out yourself. It's a very popular book, very good book. So the example is that, let's say you are testing whether a strange sounding hypothesis, but this is just an example, okay? That green candies cause a certain type of cancer. So let's say we have a variant of candy available in the market, and they come in different colors: green, red, blue, yellow, whatever. So obviously, scientifically, this makes no sense. I mean, if there is something wrong with the candies that they cause cancer, then it shouldn't be just green candies. Then the color shouldn't matter. But just for an example, let's say that we have an hypothesis: green candies cause this type of cancer. Okay. So now you'll test the hypothesis. You will bring different samples of candies of different colors, maybe feed them to patients. No, that's not what we actually do. We cannot test like this on human subjects, but just as a thought experiment, maybe you will see the effect of these candies on human tissue or something, and see whether actually, and you'll test whether green cells cause cancer. But this kind of research, it's about analyzing a lot of data, a lot of observations, a lot of experimental data, and then it's not like you get a very clear answer, yes or no. You have to do statistical analysis, because sometimes maybe for one particular tissue, you see that you fed green candy and it grew cancer. You cannot conclude that it is because of the green candy. Maybe the tissue was already infected, or maybe it was just a coincidence, but the tissue grew cancer, but it had nothing to do with the green candy. So you have to do these experiments on a large number of tissues. Only then can you say confidently that no, my results actually show a strong positive correlation between cancer and green candies. Otherwise, you cannot just say, right? Or maybe if it's just a single tissue, you feed it green candy and it does not develop cancer, now that is not enough to say that green candies don't ever cause cancer. No. So, but the thing is that when you have a large number of let's say tissues, and you have a large, like, when you do the experiment on a large number of systems, on a large number of ensemble, let's say a large number of times, large number of trials, then you have to, then by pure accident you might get some false positive results, and you can also get some negative results which are actually positive. This is possible because you're doing, it's all statistics and probability. Nothing is 100% certain anymore. So then you have to do something which we call the null hypothesis, or the like a p-value testing, and you see whether your results are actually statistically significant or not. But this is a bit fuzzy because, for instance, just an example, let's say 20 different labs. Okay, so let's say in one lab they carried out this experiment and they come to the conclusion that no, green jelly beans actually cause cancer. Now, let us say that this is actually not true, but they formed this conclusion because they did some little mistake in the statistical analysis, or maybe it was due to some chance, some accidents happened in the lab, which so that almost all the tissues grew cancer. But this accident was overlooked, and the reason for the cancer was attributed to the green. I mean, the green jelly beans or the green candies, whatever. I think in the book they gave the example of jelly bean or something. It's just some kind of food or some whatever. That's not the important point. So then the problem is, so if one lab gets this result, which is actually a false positive, they're getting a positive result, but this is a false positive. Green candies do not actually cause cancer, but they publish this result, and the result appears okay. This is a statistically significant result. They have done everything, so the scientific community believe the result, and there is a kind of bias working, and that is the psychological bias, because if scientists discover something unusual, then it will make headlines. If today maybe I discovered that like let's say, although this is going to be very dramatic, this is not realistic at all, but just to give you an example, let's say today I discovered that the law of increasing entropy, the second law of thermodynamics, is incorrect, and let's say I put out a very convincing looking paper with a lot of equations and and also experiments with real world experiments data, and then I'm going to make headlines. Tomorrow is like, oh my god, the most sacred law of physics has been disproved and stuff. But maybe today, if I just derive the second law of thermodynamics in a new way, something no one has done before, the my approach, entirely new approach, but I derive the same law, second law of thermodynamics. That's not going to make headlines. Okay, maybe this some other physicist derived the law we already knew in a new way. Okay, that's cool, but okay, that's not going to make headlines. So it's not going to get noticed. It's not going to get funded. But stuff like very unusual research like green candies cause cancer, that's not what we expected, but this paper actually proves that it's gonna make headlines. And this is even this is gonna actually publicize the incident even more, dramatize the incident even more in among the common people, and then they'll slowly stop buying green candies, and they'll opt more for the other candies, and a lot of effects will actually shape the evolution of the system. And by system I mean, let's say, the interaction between green candies and the company that makes them, the consumers that buy them, and so on and so forth, blah blah blah. But so what does this tell you? That is the question. What does this tell you? So let's say if one lab publishes a very convincing sounding report that, and but it's a false positive, then let's say 20 other labs will try out the same experiment. No, let's check for ourselves. It's actually true or not. And let's say 19 of those labs get negative result. No, green jelly beans or green candies actually do not cause cancer. But one lab, just again due to some random accidents or some chance, by chance, they get a positive result. Now what will happen? Let's say you have disproved a claim that has been making headlines and stuff. Nobody's going to publish that. So even though those 19 labs disproved this claim, they got a negative result, but they will have a hard time finding a journal that's going to publish it, because first of all, it's nothing. I mean, at least in the scientific community, traditionally the negative results are not given the importance that they deserve. They're not treated to be as important as positive results, but actually they're very important, because if you disprove something, maybe you don't prove some hypothesis exactly, but actually you rule out some hypothesis. Now this is not a true hypothesis, so that is important for anyone who would be working on that problem in the future. It's important to have publications that show the negative results, that no, these guys actually disproved this hypothesis, these guys got a negative result. But no, negative results are not usually published, or at least not cannot be published as easily as positive results. So there is a bias. I mean, if we carry forward this example, then what would happen? So the 19 labs that get a negative results, they are not gonna even submit this to journals, because they know the journals won't publish. Even if they submit, the journals are like, okay, you also might have made a mistake in your statistical analysis, and their results are already widely cited and very popular and stuff. So no, we'll not publish it. So those 19 negative results, they are buried under the table. They never get out. They're never published. And let's say one other lab out of the 20 labs who tried to recreate the experiment, they get again positive result, but by pure chance. But their report will be published, since it's a positive result and they're reinforcing a very popular yet controversial claim. and people will start to trust that claim even more, that no, a second group also found the same results, that means green candies actually cause cancer, oh my god. And this will continue, so it's a growing bias. And this is true in many. This green jelly bean or green candy was an example, but this is actually true. There are some recent journals which are taking some steps, some recent communities, recent universities, which are taking some steps, I mean, recently, about to solve this problem of bias. But I think there has been a very great bias, and the situation is also not helped by AI, with the advent of artificial intelligence, and especially people using artificial intelligence to write their reports and even research papers and stuff. So the bias is actually growing because people are using AI to generate reports out of points. Then people are again using AI to summarize reports into points, and it's like AI biases are getting introduced in the report or in the research papers, published research, without us even realizing it. Subtle biases, but over time this can accumulate and can have a very catastrophic effect, okay, on the landscape of published research. And yeah, so what I wanted to say is that, so this bias is increasing, but some recent a recent initiative which is very good, it's called, you know reports, like, what you can do actually is that even before you start working on, I mean, at least there are some journals which allow this, which accept this kind of reports. Even before you start working on a project, you just submit a short, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 pages report to the journal, which clearly states your research question, I mean, your hypothesis, and your methodology, like how you're going to test this hypothesis. But it will say nothing about whether you expect to get positive results or negative results, nothing about that. It will say nothing about results, because you have not yet started working on the research at that point. That is when you should submit this report. Only your research question and your methodologies. Now, if the methodology that you have outlined there, it sounds logical to tackle the question, the report will be published by the journal, publicly available, even before you start working on the research. Try to think about what I'm saying. And then you start working on the research, and if you follow the methodology that you have mentioned in the report, which is already published now, publicly available, so you cannot deny. So if you follow the methodology and if you get negative result, then by law, I mean, by this system, the journal is bound to publish even that negative result. If you have followed the methodology that is outlined in the original report, which is already published, then if no matter you get positive or negative result, the journal is bound to publish your final article, which is good, because this would somewhat reduce all the bias between positive and negative results. But yeah, the point is, so yeah, you can understand what I'm saying when I say bias, in research. And this is a very serious question, serious problem actually. So what is research like? Well, I mean, it's not fun. It's becoming more and more like any other job, like a corporate job, because research nowadays is becoming more about going to conferences and just convincing people, like selling your idea to people, rather than genuinely working on something and asking people, like, okay, even if this is wrong, I would like your inputs. But it's like, okay, I can maybe some professors can give you inputs, but if you go to your sponsor, somebody who's funding your research, and if you tell them that I just want your inputs even if this is wrong, they're like, we give you the money, you give us result. If you cannot give us positive result, we give the money to someone else and you are finished. That is the model. So sounds harsh, but that is true in many cases, in most cases actually. And yeah, so the claim I wanted to make is that at the beginning of this video, I told you I'm going to make a claim, and it's that these negative results are as important as positive results, and negative results should get their due share of. But I think at the same time, I think the bias has grown so large that even if we're trying to introduce new policies, like I gave an example of the reports, but I think it would take long, or maybe it's even impossible, because day by day it's getting even out of hand. Impossible to get completely rid of this bias, because we don't even know what we're fighting with. We only know like, just like a big elephant in the room, we can only see parts of the elephant, but we cannot even understand the underlying bias, and it's growing by the day, it's diverging. But this is very dangerous. This situation is actually very concerning. And like the example I told I would give you, this is a very silly example, and maybe not a very, not like the green candies cause cancer kind of example. That is WhatsApp statuses. Okay, so this is from my experience. Okay, this is like I have faced it, and from my experience, I'm not giving any like example I read somewhere or something. It's from my first hand experience actually. So most social media apps or networking companies, tech companies like WhatsApp and all, Meta. I mean, WhatsApp is now controlled by Meta. So these apps or whatever, what they do is actually, you know what they do? You most of you would be aware, because I mean most of you have probably used WhatsApp. So most of you would be aware that WhatsApp recently, not recently, I think it's over a year now. They added a feature of, you can like people's WhatsApp statuses. Just you can just like previously it was just you could view people's status, and if I have my read receipt on, then I can see, I can check who has, like the guys who have viewed my status and who have not even viewed it. It depends on their privacy settings as well. But if I but now like recently WhatsApp has added the option of liking status. So people can view your status as before, but people can also choose to react. They can like give a heart sign, like they can just like your status, right? So why did WhatsApp do this? Few of us actually care to stop and think about that. We are like, okay, it's just another cool feature. Who cares about privacy? Well, it's just another cool feature. But the thing is that but the thing is that this is actually very concerning, because in a way, I mean, most tech companies do this. WhatsApp did this so that they can analyze the behavior of their users, and they can have a higher degree of control and customization. Because right now, previously, all the data they have was, okay, so these are the guys who are viewing the statuses. Now they can actually see the way people choose to interact, like what kind of statuses has more likes than others. I mean, of course, WhatsApp will claim that it's all end-to-end encrypted, and WhatsApp, yeah, actually, of course, WhatsApp does not have any private access to your chats or your statuses, but still it has some analytics, obviously, to overall its users, and it has a very great data, because WhatsApp can has this analytics for billions of users, millions of users. You only have the data for maybe you have 200 contacts, you have the data for 200 contacts, for only your contacts. WhatsApp has maybe 200 million or more. I don't know, I have no idea about the exact number of WhatsApp users, but I'm pretty sure it would be over billions, maybe. So yeah, now the thing is that now what I want to say is that I I'm sorry, I'm feeling a bit sleepy, I'm sorry. Today was a very tiring day. Anyway, so if you were to you whoever you are, like you're watching the video, if you are among my WhatsApp contacts, maybe my friend or someone, uh, then you will be aware of this. If not, then let me tell it to you myself. I post a lot of statuses, some of which might seem unusual. I usually don't post the kind of stuff that people usually post in WhatsApp statuses, like, because first of all, people, what people usually post in statuses, they go out with their friends and maybe to some restaurant and have a pizza, and they just maybe post a picture, that kind of thing. You get the idea. I don't, first of all, I don't even go out with my, I don't have any friends to go out with, and it's a conscious choice, of course. So I don't have much such photos to post usually, and even when I do, I don't usually post that kind of statuses. Maybe once or twice I usually post my opinions, some of which are very unusual, or some maybe some physics metaphors or physics memes, kind of, sometimes, or some daily life updates, maybe sometimes, like maybe not daily life updates, like not hanging around with friends, or mostly physics related, or sometimes some or maybe sometimes I share some YouTube video I find interesting, like not my own, any general YouTube video, maybe a video of Veritasium probably, or something. So that is but yeah, the thing is that I actually take a look at who is liking my statuses and who is not, and that actually reveals a lot, because WhatsApp status is kind of whatever a person posts on their statuses. I'm so sorry. Whatever a person posts on their WhatsApp statuses is kind of the average tendencies of that person. Like in statistics, you study about mean, median, mode, the measures of central tendency. So whatever a person posts on that status, a person have a human has many masks, many different identities. It's like you can think of it roughly like a bell-shaped curve, the Gaussian distribution. So they have many masks, but the most common one and the average one, the in the middle, maybe the most probable, the peak, or let's just say the average of average identity of the human based on all these masks. I mean, based on the superposition of all these masks, let's say. That is what they usually post on the statuses, because they know that my status everybody can see it, unless they choose to hide it from some particular group of people. That's usually in different situations. But usually status, their posting status means they know or they want everyone to see it. That means they will not reveal their individual masks in the statuses. It's like an average measure of the human. But in individual chats, okay, maybe I wear a mask A for this person and I wear a very different mask for that person. That's possible because this is an individual chat. The way I talk with that person, it's unknown to this person, and vice versa. So that is the thing. Looking at people's status could be a good way of analyzing the central tendencies and analyzing your the behavior of your contacts to your own status. That is also very important. That can also be very much revealing about a person's behavior and whatever views or whatever the type of person they are. Because and WhatsApp likes, the addition of this new feature, WhatsApp likes, the good thing, or I don't know whether it's good or bad, but the thing about this is that it actually gives me a lot of data because I analyze what kind of person almost everyone views my statuses, most of my all of my contacts almost. But I see which of one of them like my statuses. And there are three categories. Some people, most people actually in my contact, they blindly like all of my statuses. I'm pretty sure they don't even read the text heavy statuses, the statuses in which I post a lot of text. They just look at the pictures, the text. Okay, Arpan has posted something, maybe again some crazy physics metaphors, that we just like it. So this is very shallow. Some people will say that, okay, I feel happy, I would feel happy if I got so many likes on my statuses. I post a status now, within 5 minutes it's 20 likes, then within a few hours it's almost 35 or 40 likes. That's a big thing. Maybe I have no idea, maybe for some of it's 100, for some of it's even less. But the thing is that if somebody keeps liking my statuses the minute I post it, and all of my statuses, the message that I get is that there is a very shallow kind of engagement. You are not really interested in my views or opinions. You are just, okay, these guys first posted again, let me just like it. That's very shallow. So this is group one. They will like all of my statuses without even really thinking about what I'm trying to say, maybe in most cases. The second group is that they will not like anything, but they will view it. So these are like, either that's because that's a personal choice, then I won't interact in that way, I'll just view the statuses. Or maybe because they are kind of my rivals or enemies, if I use that word. That is one group. But that's good in a way. They don't like statuses at all. It's good in a way. But the third group is the most interesting. The third group is those who like certain kinds of statuses, and they will not like the other kind of statuses. Like maybe they like the statuses in which I post photos of mine, which although I do that rarely. But they don't like those statuses in which I post maybe some physics article which I published or something. That says a lot about them actually. This was just an example, but I try to analyze, and this is data to me. And if I go to WhatsApp and post this publicly, that okay, so I have been analyzing your behavior to my WhatsApp statuses, how you interact, whether you like or not, blah blah blah. Then the question that would come to their mind would be like, oh my god, that is a good point, maybe that's an important realization, but why is Arpan posting it publicly in his WhatsApp status? Then he's kind of giving away his own strategy. But actually, if I actually do that, maybe I will do that, I don't know, that's not a crime anyway. So if I actually do that, then I will be generating a new set of data, and this would be interesting because this is a situation I have not created previously. It is a new situation, and analyzing a data to a new situation can tell me a lot about them, about my contacts. And I am not very interested in my contacts, but I am interested in human behavior in general. So, and I have like over 200 contacts on my WhatsApp, so almost nearly 300. So it's good. I mean, that's a huge, not huge, but that's a pretty big sample space. So it might reveal some interesting patterns, and that is what I'm interested in. I'm not particularly interested in my contacts, like personally. So yeah, now if I actually post this on WhatsApp, then they will like, okay, I've been analyzing your behavior, the way you interact with my statuses, and they're like, why are you posting it publicly? Well, even then, I'm generating new data because if I post this, then I'm pretty sure I will see a phase transition in my likes, number of likes, because most people would be afraid of liking this, or they might think of this message as a bit provocative, definitely a bit controversial. Or what is Arpan saying, that he actually analyzes as, okay, maybe I'll not like his statuses anymore. Phase transition in my likes. So they are like, they will have this impression that, okay, I will stop reacting to Arpan's statuses, that means I'm out of this game. But they are not, because out of the nearly 300 contacts I have, I'm pretty sure that some of them may be much less in number, maybe very few, but still some of them will still like my statuses and others won't. So actually, even by choosing not to react, they're still reacting in a way, they are generating data for me, and even their neutrality is a reaction. And by analyzing the number of people who chose to go neutral, uh, by looking at that message, that text, because this is something I've not done before, posting publicly on WhatsApp about, I've been analyzing your the way you interact with my statuses. That's a new situation, and I told you, analyzing the system's behavior to new situations is a good way to understand the limits of the system, understand different trends of the system that you may not have considered previously. So if I do that, actually, what's going to happen. This is a very good example of emergent data. So individually, my contacts might think that, okay, I'll stop reacting to upper statuses, I'm out of the game, but they are not. Even by choosing not to react, they are giving me some new data. Okay, I posted this, and after that, this person stopped reacting altogether, but before that, this person used to react to all my statuses. That says a lot about human behavior, actually. So even by choosing not to react, you are generating data, because this is collective system. You don't have access to the three. Let's say, for example, I have 300 contacts. It's nearly 280 or something, but let's say it's 300. So the people who would stop reacting, they are actually generating data, because although they can control the way they would react, they cannot control the 299 other contacts which I have. And overall, it's emergent, it's a collective behavior, and not without any local control. Individually, you cannot control it. So you are generating data for me, whether you choose to react or you choose to like stop reacting. Doesn't matter. Either way, you're generating data. So the thing is that it would maybe, if you stop reacting, it could be like negative result, negative data. Could be, not for me personally. I couldn't care less about the number of likes they get on my WhatsApp statuses. I don't even have the time to check. I do post quite a few statuses, but I don't even have the time to check all the time who liked and who didn't like, obviously. Sometimes I only open my statuses and scroll about through the number of views and likes only when I'm traveling on the bus my way to the university, or maybe I have nothing to do, just randomly. But it's not like I consciously keep an eye always. But sometimes I do, and when I do, it reveals interesting patterns. That is what I wanted to share. So this is negative results and positive results. It's a very good idea. So most humans, what they would do is that, no, better I would not post this, because that then people would stop reacting, and it feels bad psychologically. We are wired to think that way, that okay, I used to get 40-50 likes on my statuses, and now I'm getting 10 likes. That's a bad thing. That's not technically a bad thing, but we would feel that way. So we would stop post. We don't usually we usually would refrain from posting such controversial statuses. But I would go forward with it. I would do it. I would actually do it. Okay, right now I would do it today. If you are one of my contacts and are watching the video, and you are watching my WhatsApp statuses, you will know that I'm not just bluffing. I will actually do it, because I mean, at worst, that would result in a decrease in the number of likes I get on WhatsApp statuses, but that will give me new data. And to do research, to explore a system, you have to create different kind of situations and analyze the response of the system. You cannot just keep studying, keep following the traditional path, the conventional path, and just hope to generate originally new insights. But unfortunately, as I told you, this system in research in academia, it rewards mediocrity in a way, and it doesn't reward very novel ideas, which may be a bit too bold. So that is the problem. So most people would usually not post this because they're afraid of losing the number of likes. I am not, but most people are. So that's kind of again a bias towards getting positive results. So that means you are biased because you always want positive results. You want the number of likes to increase. That means whatever you're posting on a status is being influenced by the number of likes you will get, which should not be the case if you're actually trying to analyze human behavior. If you give humans what they want to see, they're gonna like you. But that doesn't say about them. If you just post controversial statuses, nothing. Of course, by controversial, I don't mean anything which is hateful to someone or which is irrelevant or illegal. No, of course not. But maybe a little controversial, that because that actually will give you a lot of data and a lot of insights about how humans actually behave. Especially, yeah. So that's a very kind of a crazy example, but it's also an example of emergent data and collective behavior, because some patterns will inevitably emerge from if I look at the data of all my contacts. So even if individually some contact maybe will think that, okay, I will stop reacting to urban statuses, I'm out of the game. But no, you're not out of the game. Even if you block me, okay, maybe you're out of future games, but even if you block me, you give me some data. Okay, that person blocked me after this, so that means this is how that person is. So you are generating data all the time, whether you like it or not. And that's why I said in one of my in my last video, probably I think I said that humans are just like in a way, humans are the most trained AI models, and we have not been trained by other humans. Of course, we have been trained by over the millions of years. We have been trained by genetics, by evolution, and spontaneously we have also been trained by other humans and society also. So it's a kind of a highly coupled system, and so in that sense we are just like AI models. We have been trained over many years, and we are we our complexity is much more than AI, so we feel human and AI does not feel human to us. But in a way, in principle, we are also like large language models in a way, if you understand what I'm trying to say, right? So yeah, and I think with that, that's enough for this video. I just wanted to just have a random discussion on some important topics. I don't know. So thank you for watching, and see you later. So yeah, thank you for watching. Goodbye.